Since Respawn Entertainment was purchased by Electronic Arts, I've always been worried about how EA's influence could ruin the studio, but so far, they really are the one bright spot of any studio in Electronic Arts. In my opinion, Respawn has not delivered a bad game yet. The founders of the studio, Jason West and Vince Zampella, were also the guys that started the Call of Duty franchise, and brought us three of the best Call of Duty games ever made: Call of Duty 2, Modern Warfare, and Modern Warfare 2, after they were fired from Infinity Ward after just a messy situation involving Activision. They founded an independent gaming studio, Respawn Entertainment, in 2010, with many Infinity Ward developers joining them. Their first game obviously was Titanfall in 2014 and then Titanfall 2 in 2016, both published by Electronic Arts. Then in November of 2017, Electronic Arts purchased the studio, and since then, there's really been a lot of concern about the future of the studio. When news broke first from YouTuber The Quartering and then many other sources that a free-to-play battle royale Titanfall spin-off game was coming, I think many of us were a bit skeptical, but now I've spent days with the game and I think it is the best battle royale game around. Apex Legends is really a team-focused battle royale title with the classic formula in place, but with some major differences, like the fact that you can be revived after death, and the ping system is just phenomenal considering if you're playing with randoms, 9 times out of 10, none of them will either have a microphone or be in game chat. Anyway, I really do enjoy Apex Legends, but I do have one issue that we'll discuss later in this video, but for now, I think it's important to understand this game is saving Electronic Arts. As we discussed in my last video, Battlefield 5 underperformed and FIFA 19, FIFA Ultimate Team are starting to show a decline. Specifically with Battlefield 5, some analysts expected sales of the game to reach around 15 million copies and possibly outsell Red Dead Redemption 2, but that did not happen. The game only sold 7 million and EA was disappointed. Also, isn't it pretty pathetic how 7 million copies can be considered a disappointment? That's just where we are with Electronic Arts, and why live services are so important to them, and why they really dislike single-player games. Microtransactions are unfortunately the way of the future, but EA blaming Battlefield 5's failure on single player is actually something they did. EA CEO Andrew Wilson cites the title's lacking creative center and unprecedented competition as reasons for its failure, also believing the marketing campaign failed to stimulate players ahead of launch. Really? The prioritization of Battlefield 5's solo campaign over its Battle Royale mode, which is still yet to launch, was also believed to hurt its sales performance, especially since Black Ops 4 had one at the time of release. Unfortunately, the later release date meant the game launched deeper into a competitive holiday window where heavy price discounting was a big factor. In addition, we also made the decision to prioritize other features, including a single-player experience at launch over a Battle Royale mode. Anyway, I still find that reasoning for why Battlefield 5 failed as ludicrous because EA's marketing their horrible reputation, a World War II shooter a year after Call of Duty did it, dumb comments made by executives, a complicated, greedy release schedule, mediocre reviews, an unfinished game at launch, and this hashtag everyone's Battlefield dice party mocking haters is why consumers ultimately went with other games like Red Dead Redemption 2 instead. It wasn't because they focused too much on single-player stories. But yeah, Battlefield 5 did not do good. Command & Conquer Rivals, a mobile game no one wanted, failed. Madden Mobile struggled, FIFA 19 did not sell all that well, and EA had to admit that in their latest earning calls with investors. This is largely why EA stock took a dump a few days ago, falling by nearly 20% in value. But it's believed that Apex Legends and Anthem are being pushed out this month because EA needs some big hits right now. Anthem clearly could have used more time with adding endgame content and polishing, while Apex Legends' sudden announcement and release right before Anthem is seen as little risk and big reward for Electronic Arts, and it looks like part of that plan has worked. Apex Legends is being seen as Fortnite's biggest competition yet. Will this game have legs? It's hard to say for sure, but Respawn has a winning formula right now, and EA stock is flying high because of this. Vince Zampella revealing the other day that in 72 hours, over 10 million players have jumped into Apex Legends, and we've breached 1 million concurrent players. This news meant that Apex Legends has broken a Fortnite Battle Royale record, which was reaching 10 million players in 2 weeks. Additionally, just on Twitch alone, Apex Legends has double the amount of viewers watching than Fortnite. What this all means is that Respawn really has saved Electronic Arts for now. After Vince Zampella revealed how many players have jumped into the game so far, the EA stock today alone has jumped up by more than 12%, and it likely will continue rising as Apex Legends really is a fun game that I feel is on fire right now, and I think may just be the beginning of this title's success. Now, the story surrounding the game's development and release is also very interesting. Respawn lead producer Drew McCoy spoke to Eurogamer about Apex Legends, and at some point in this interview, Drew touched on why this game was released so soon, saying, "Our desire is to be completely open and transparent with our player base, and part of that expands to how we talk about problems. And we understand this game is going to have a skeptical audience. There are some people who think there are too many Battle Royale games, or it's a fad. The world thinks we're making Titanfall 3, and we're not. This is what we're making." To try and convince a skeptical audience for months with trailers and hands-on articles, we're just like, let the game speak for itself. It's the most powerful antidote to potential problems. We're doing a free-to-play game with essentially loot boxes after we were bought by EA, and it's not Titanfall 3. It's the perfect recipe for a marketing plan to go awry. So why have that? Let's just ship the game and let players play. Look, that is a smart decision, but something I hope does not become the norm in gaming. It seems many publishers have been adapting strategies to try and remove the element of criticism before release. Call of Duty Black Ops 4 has done it by waiting a month after release to launch the game's microtransaction store, which is in my opinion pretty horrible. Activision has done this for the last few Call of Duties, and it's brilliant. Have gamers buy the game and have critics' reviews already written, and then introduce the terrible monetization scheme. Another game would be EA's very own Anthem, in which BioWare for some reason does not want to share what the economy will be like or the price of microtransactions before release. All we have to go off of is an outdated leaked image and BioWare's word, which I learned my lesson a year ago with Star Wars Battlefront 2. The one aspect of Apex Legends that I personally hate is the use of loot boxes. Don't care if it's free to play, mobile, or a paid game, the longer this monetization system persists in gaming, the more likely we will eventually get another Star Wars Battlefront 2 loot box controversy, debacle, whatever. Loot boxes are psychologically manipulative and are pretty much slot machines. We've seen increasing pressure from countries to pass regulation because, say what you wish, loot boxes are most harmful to kids and gambling addicts. Developers and publishers love it because instead of someone spending the reasonable $5 to $10 on a cosmetic item, they can turn that spending potentially into hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars. Additionally, there's been numerous studies released in the last year or two confirming that yes, loot boxes are psychologically akin to gambling. I mean, let's just look at this Australian study that was done recently. The investigator doctors stated in their report, our large-scale study found important links between loot box spending and problem gambling. The more severe a gamer's problem gambling was, the more likely they were to spend large amounts of money on loot boxes. These results strongly support claims that loot boxes are psychologically akin to gambling. Now, the problem with loot boxes really starts with them being found acceptable in free-to-play console and mobile games. For some reason, developers seem to get away with horrendous monetization schemes because the game is free. Just a few months ago, Marvel's Strike Force was under fire for being a pay-to-win disaster, which if you followed this channel for some time, we've already talked about the pile of horse manure that game is in terms of monetization and the way the developers use influencers to promote and get advantages in the game. Now, obviously, Apex Legends loot boxes aren't pay-to-win, they're not comparable to that mess, but the fact that they exist, in my opinion, is a problem. Now, the common response I've seen people saying is, how does a free-to-play developer monetize their game then? And I mean, isn't the answer simple? Sell cosmetics directly to consumers? It's not that hard, and for those saying or even thinking, how is that profitable? Well, Fortnite does exactly that and made $3 billion just last year. Additionally, Apex Legends already is copying Fortnite's monetization system with cosmetics that can be exclusively purchased with real-world money. The prices aren't exactly all that great, but I find it a little bit more reasonable in a free-to-play game than a $60 game. There's also a few legends that can be unlocked through just playing the game or by spending real-world money, and in a few weeks, Apex Legends is getting a battle pass, just like Fortnite, in the $60 game that is Black Ops 4. Now, the only difference I've seen right now between Apex Legends and Fortnite Battle Royale is that Apex has randomized loot boxes. As much as I don't care for Fortnite and have problems with the Epic Game Store, I respect how they have monetized Fortnite up to this point, and I find it disappointing that so many greedy publishers keep taking only certain elements of their monetization system. And when I say that, I'm specifically mentioning Activision with Black Ops 4. But let's move on because there's still a few more things we need to discuss, because sadly in that statement I read earlier, it was confirmed that Titanfall 3 is officially dead, for now. I'm not saying EA killed the franchise, but they certainly deserve a lot of blame. As Kotaku's Jason Schreier reported the other day, as we learned that Titanfall 3 was indeed in development during during the fall of 2017 when publisher Electronic Arts purchased Respawn for many millions of dollars. At the time, as I reported this past Saturday, a source told me the third Titanfall was underway and that the studio was looking to get it out as quickly as possible for fears of it looking and feeling dated if it came out too much later than 2018, thanks to its use of the Valve-created Source engine. I speculated that either A, this was a stopgap en route to a proper Titanfall 3, or B, whatever work was done on Titanfall 3 has become Apex Legends. The answer, it appears, is B. So yeah, unfortunately, Respawn chose to go with a free-to-play battle royale game rather than pursue Titanfall 3. Obviously, many rightfully assume this has to be something of Electronic Arts doing, as they own Respawn Entertainment now, but Drew McCoy further explained to Game Informer not to be throwing EA under the bus, but this wasn't the game they were expecting. I had to go to executives and show it to them and explain it and not convince them, but more, hey, trust us, this is the thing you want out of us. As a corporation, they can only quantify based on the past data, and they've never done anything like this before. There's a giant rainbow question mark over revenue projections for this game. They're like, we don't know, we can't predict. This is a game we had to say, this is what we want to do, help us get there. They had no hand in development or anything about this game. Now look, I understand what Respawn is doing. They are taking ownership for not doing Titanfall 3, but let's be honest. If they had approached Electronic Arts and said, we want to make a single player only game, they would have clearly told them no. They can't do that, and I find it hard to believe a game that follows Fortnite's monetization style is a hard sell, as the potential for this game could be massive, something EA's executives should be loving. And yes, of course, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a game being developed by Respawn Entertainment, is going to be a single player focused title under EA. But this game has been in development even before EA purchased the studio, just something to note. But still, the timing of Apex Legends release and Anthem only being a few weeks away tells me that EA's executives were worried. And as of the last few months, some of these executives have been dumping quite a bit of stock. But in conclusion, I'm disappointed learning that Titanfall 3 was cancelled instead for this. Titanfall 2 arguably is one of the best shooter games released in the last number of years, but unfortunately Electronic Arts killed its potential by launching it right up against Call of Duty and their own Battlefield. It was a horrible marketing decision, which is likely why Respawn ultimately chose to just go with a Titanfall spin-off battle royale game instead. Luckily, Apex Legends is a phenomenal game, but the use of loot boxes are really my only issue. Yes, these loot boxes are just like Overwatch, which I see as just as much of a problem, especially considering Activision Blizzard is normalizing loot boxes by making them into real toys. Apex Legends doesn't have duplicates, you can earn a pack by leveling up, it shows decent percentages and ensures a legendary item in at least every 30 packs, but it doesn't change the problems associated with any and all loot boxes. They are slot machines that many governments are trying to regulate for that reason alone. Developer Digital Extremes removed a microtransaction in their free-to-play game Warframe in the past just because it was being used too much, and other developers like CD Projekt Red have taken a stance against loot boxes. Even though many will and can argue that they don't see a need to pay for these loot boxes, it doesn't mean someone else won't, and a lot of the game's customization involves the use of these Apex packs. I just get a little worried how acceptable people find loot boxes in a free-to-play or mobile game, because in a few years I believe most multiplayer AAA games will be free-to-play with monetization being dependent on microtransactions. Anyway, that's just my only issue with Apex Legends. Besides that, I like everything else about it. Respawn continues to prove why they are among some of the best game developers, and I feel their success this year will only continue with Apex Legends and their upcoming single-player focused Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which is supposed to come close to the end of 2019. Electronic Arts made a smart decision purchasing Respawn, but I do have long-term concerns still, just because we all know how Electronic Arts is as a publisher. But yeah, these are just my opinions. How do you feel about Apex Legends? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or found any informative value, and consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.